Afternoon and welcome and thank you to everyone for joining our book talk series today. My name is Amaarah DeCuir and I am an executive board member of the Center for Islam and the Contemporary World at Shenandoah University. And I am joined this afternoon by Imam Omair of the Adams Center. Today we are hosting a series of conversations focusing on the book, I Am the Night Sky, by a collection of Muslim American youth authors from Shout Mouse Press. So it's my distinct honor and privilege to welcome these authors to our platform this afternoon, introduce all of you to their writing, and have what I hope is going to be an engaging conversation with these young activists and writers and thinkers about the work that they have done to produce I Am the Night Sky and the work that they are doing since post-production and their continuing work in their own leadership roles in our community. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce everyone to Alexa Patrick, who is representing Shout Mouse Press, who is going to help start our conversation this afternoon.
Wonderful, thank you, Amaarah. And hello, everyone. My name is Alexa Patrick. I am the programs manager at Shout Mouse Press. Shout Mouse is a nonprofit writing program and publishing house that works specifically with youth from communities who have been marginalized and oppressed. All of our books, of which there are 40, were published by young people and for young people. They are published by people who are often pushed out of the literary world, who often don't see themselves reflected in literature, and who often don't see themselves reflected accurately in media altogether. So by arming young people from communities who have been oppressed with the tools to be experts in their own stories, we then support them in demanding the space that they're all too often denied. If you are interested in finding out more, you can look us up at shoutmousepress.org. You can also follow us on social media at Shout Mouse Press on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. We have actually just launched, we just launched an initiative called Shout in Place, where we are inviting not only our authors, but all young people under the age of 24 to respond to this moment of pandemic, this moment of protest through weekly prompts. So if you are interested in that, please be sure to check that out. But overall, we are just so honored to be the program through which I Am the Night Sky was produced. And I'm saying that as like, we're just the infrastructure, right? This book came out of, these young people choosing what they wanted to write about, choosing what they wanted to share, who they wanted to share it with, and how they wanted to share it. So it is really a youth-led collection. And so it is just my honor to be here to listen to you all and celebrate you all. And I would like you all to join me in welcoming our 5 brilliant authors, Sasa, Iman, Bilal, and Layla, and Fatima.
So if we can start with Sasa. Sasa, let me share my screen and then we will be ready for you to get started.
All right. So yeah, before I go into actually reading, I just want to share some stuff about myself and, background about the book and everything. So as everyone who just heard her call my name knows, my name is Sasa. I am a 17-year-old poet and artist and just general creative. I live in Wheaton, Maryland, and I was born in Tennessee, raised in the Maryland, DC area. And right now, not in school, I'm finishing up a gap year that has been very eventful and educational and insane. And I am soon going to be starting college in the fall, hopefully to pursue a career in art education. So I decided to be a part of I Am the Night Sky, my art with the world, share who I am and what I know about myself as a Muslim American and as a Black Muslim American. I just got a notification that my I'm going to try and talk slow, and hopefully it won't cut out too much. So just a quick overview of our collection. It's actually it is a collection of poetry and artwork and stories and vignettes and snapshots from the lives of 10 Muslim American creatives. So some of us are artists, like visual artists, some of us are writers, some of us are both. And we all got together to tell our stories, and hopefully, like in the hopes of telling our stories, affect the way our narrative is looked at and viewed by the world, because we found ourselves as Muslim Americans being homogenized and like having our story told as one thing that isn't necessarily what any of us are. So we gathered together to talk about who we really are in all of our diversity and complexity and sameness, but all under the title of Muslim American. So my piece that I'm going to share with you that is up on the screen is called A Lot of Things. Pointless messages I sent to an address in heaven, things I would love people to know about me, remember me this way when I die, or the short version, title text here. So this is a piece that I just wrote to talk about myself and my family and, you know, what I know to be true about the world. I, in my identity, like through a lot of my life, I felt as if I had a lot to say, but my story was kind of put down, and my identity was being like gagged, like I wasn't able to speak for myself. So in this story, I just wanted to talk about my life and the things I love and the things I don't love and why, and like use that to push for a sense of humanity, and just hopefully the world, you know, look at me and look at my family as what we truly are. So this is about myself and the people I live with. All right. In my house, singing is like breathing. It is something that is always done, that has always been done, and that we will never stop doing. Essential and adored. Several times a day, my siblings and I break into song, loud, clear, and somewhat off-key, dancing to the vibrations from our Bluetooth speaker. An outsider would think we plan these things, but we never do. Music is just something that has always been a part of us, so much so that we often fall asleep and wake up to music, our hearts doing their best to mimic drums. Music is our worship, our freedom, our hope, and love. This fact is one of great importance, because to know me
Sasa, are you still there? She may have be going out for internet. Let me try and continue her reading and see if we're able to pull her back in. This fact is one of great importance, because to know me, dear reader, you must first know the extent of the joy I feel while singing, the extent of the love I feel for my family, the way being with them makes me feel like I have wings, and how desperately I have always wanted to fly. I have prayed to God for wings many a time, not only as a child. Just this year, I asked for wings, hoping that if I didn't get them here, then maybe if I got to heaven, Allah would gift them to me there. Sasa,
yes, I am back.
please pick
Hi.
up with the word but here. I can't do you justice.
Thanks. Really sorry. I'm not sure what happened. I'll come back. Yeah, I guess I can just read from where you stopped. I'll try to make sure that doesn't happen again. Not sure how it did. All right. But a speaker sits in my living room for whenever I'm feeling caged. And for now, I have a voice, 2 hands, and a home. And I will call that freedom until I learn otherwise. These wings are invisible to the ungrateful eye. Months ago, my sisters and I attempted to take a photo. One that featured a girl blowing glitter, maybe stardust, from her hands into a camera. I was the model, my older sister the photographer, my younger one her assistant. We collected glitter from the bottoms of old craft drawers, unearthing memory and dust from the depths of our childhood. We gathered cloth to prevent the glitter from covering everything, and we set to work. It was work, much more than we would have thought. I blew glitter into the camera, My sisters held up a blinding light and worried about the camera lens in turn. I made faces when I shouldn't. We yelled and laughed. It took way too long. And despite all of our best efforts, despite all of the precautions we took, glitter got everywhere. In part because my fumble finger failed, but mostly because that's just what glitter does. We ended with a photo none of us had expected, and a decision to walk to the park in below freezing weather because we'd do anything for art. We still sparkled from amusement and glitter, and the walls still sparkled, and the couch still sparkled, and the glitter would remain there for days to come as a reminder of how hard we tried to shine. We're still trying. So I'm not sure how much time I have left to take because of my technical difficulties. But I just wanted to mention that these two like snapshots of my life were about how I connect to like Islam and worship and all those things through the lens of creativity and moving and doing things, creating things. So like in the first paragraph where I mentioned music is our worship, our freedom, our hope and love. A lot of times I like to think about music through the lens of being Black and Muslim because as Muslims, we have a very sometimes like foggy view on what Muslim is allowed, what music is allowed and what music is okay. And so I think of music as like when we recite Quran, people will ask if they don't know what they're hearing, they'll say, "What's that song you're singing?" So I think of it as music to worship, but also music to become free in the freedom that Black people found through music and reclaiming who we are. And then in the second piece, I just wanted to talk about how this was a moment of like growth and discovery for me and my sisters. And we like spent the entire day trying to create this thing, and we managed to kind of, and we still persevered onto our next challenge. And it just became, you know, a nice moment of learning for all of us. So that's me. Sorry, my video cut out, but
No, it was all worth it. Thank you, Sasa. Thank you so much for sharing. Layla, can we hear from your selection of the book?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Layla Rashid, and I'm 15 years old, and I go to the Holton Arms School in Bethesda, Maryland. I'll be a junior this fall. I was born in New York, but I grew up in the DC area. Both of my parents were from New Jersey, but my grandparents are of Pakistani and Indian descent. Right now, I just enjoy playing soccer while this quarantine is slowly ending. But yeah, I'm really fortunate to be a part of this wonderful book and project because embracing my identity and tackling the stereotypes has been kind of difficult growing up in America. But I think that being a part of this project has really helped me overcome those challenges. So specifically, my collection is called Moments I Remember I'm Muslim. And I talk a little bit about fasting during Ramadan, which actually ended about 2 weeks ago. And I also talk about other high school pop culture like homecoming. I chose to write about these raw moments because for me, I've always felt that I was forced to choose an identity, American or Muslim. But in writing about these untold parts of my life, I realized that this isn't a decision that I should have to make, nor should anyone else have to make. I particularly want to share my piece when I'm fasting because for me, brainstorming and writing this, it has helped me to come to the realization that identity is not split or abnormal, and that there definitely was a problem when, as I'm growing up, that there aren't people like me in the books I read or TV shows I watched or even the music I listened to. I also wanted to share this because I talk a little bit about things that, or specific parts of fasting Ramadan that maybe I felt uncomfortable about in school. And so I think bringing up these uncomfortable discussions with friends and things like that have really helped me to grow as a person. I hope that in sharing my voice, you guys, everyone will listen and realize how much power they have in sharing their voice too. So I'll share now. I've been lucky enough to be able to fast during school, which I know doesn't sound too great, but trust me, being busy for more than half the day is better than being stuck at home with a fridge full of food that I can't eat. I actually even like lunchtime when I'm fasting because I get to hang out with my friends and I don't even look at the clock every 3 seconds to see if time has passed. Obviously, when I show up to lunch one day without my fake Vera Bradley lunch bag, I get lots of questions. I try to alert my friends a few days before. If I don't explain how fasting works, my socializing hour will be taken up with talk like, not even water? Isn't that a health hazard? Doesn't your stomach hurt? It is quite hard to answer some comments. Not that they're mean or rude, but just because there really is no way to answer. And it makes me wonder, what do people think about me? Do they think that my parents are forcing me, or do they understand that I make my own decisions and I know what is best? I want to respond to all these questions, but while I'm fasting, one might notice that I talk much less, and I'm doing this for the benefit of the other person. No one wants a whiff of faster's breath from close proximity. My friends also say stuff like, "You should do that. I should do this with you. Might shed a few pounds." Personally, I like it when we can lighten the mood, but sometimes I can't help but think, am I a joke to them? Is my religion a joke to them? Is the way I live my life every day a joke to them? And fasting is not just physical, you know. It's not just not eating. It's also about staying away from anything bad, like lying and gossip and meanness. The mental aspects of fasting are the hardest. As much as it seems like staying away from gossip is easy, not knowing the tea of the inner circle, now that's a challenge for my teenage girl self. It's true that fasting can be hard, but at the end of the day, I choose to go with it because it's fulfilling. I take pride in being able to accomplish something that reminds me of who I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Layla. I appreciate the sincerity and the depth to which you are able to take an experience such as fasting and help describe what that experience is like in the course of a school day. Bilal, can we transition to you to hear you discuss your writing?
Yeah, for sure. My name is Bilal. I'm 19 and I'm currently a student at the University of Maryland. What else am I doing? It's summertime and I've spent this time the last few weeks just like watching the world is on fire and stuff like that. So I'm just trying to do my part and like help mend the gaps between different areas of like interest in this country right now and like do my part as like quasi activist to try to like take a part in the movement and do something about the world. I decided to be a part of the book project because I realized how unique my voice is and how unique everyone's voice is in the Muslim community and just how we're not all the same and how it's important to get as many viewpoints as you can to like show the diversity within our own community. I wrote a series of short stories within the book, all under my like musical identity. It's a really big umbrella in my life that encompasses a lot of things that I care about. So I wrote a series of 5 short stories that each show a little bit of like my Muslim identity and how it seeps into like my musical identity and how all of it just blends into one thing. And each piece is named after a specific musical concept that like shows like you'll be able to see in the story how it relates back to that term. And I decided to tell the story because I just felt like the more and more I can show different sides of myself and different words that can describe the person that I am and like the way that I interact with different things in my life can just show how whole the Muslim community as a whole is and how whole of a person I am, if that makes sense. So should I just read my piece now or what?
Yes, we have it queued up whenever you're ready.
All right, perfect. So this piece is called Conductor, which is who in music is the director of a piece. He indicates the tempo, rhythm, and dynamics of the piece and is responsible for unifying everyone who's performing. So here we go. It was a rager, probably over 100 people, and it was happening right in the middle of the damn afternoon. Ramadan was about to start, like in the next few days, so it was probably the last party I'd go to during the day until it ended. My friends and I were geeked, watching all the chaos. One dude had passed out, so Trey and Alex decided to see how many french fries they could fit in his nose before he woke up. People were seriously tripping. The whole basement smelled like alcohol and smoke. There was no way anyone else in the room would remember what happened after the party, though. Me, I was chilling with my water, staying hydrated. My job was to keep the music bumping with my phone in the aux. I was honored, honestly. My friend Diana, the host, put me in charge because no one else can hear the harmonies like you. I don't know what it is. I can just hear the ends of different tracks coming together, the melody of one song perfectly complementing the bass line of another. Common temporal rhythms between the pieces resonate in my mind. I have a reputation whenever I'm driving with my friends or at a party or at a kickback or even listening by myself. People just generally jam to what I put on. But I guess they just notice that what I hear sounds nice. So it's almost like my duty now. Hey man, why aren't you getting lit? Some dude asked, holding a red cup. There are a lot of things I could have said because I'm a Muslim, because I want a clear head, because I'd rather keep my inhibitions. But it was booming and bumping and everything in between. And the dude was never going to remember what I said. So I was just like, dead ass, I'm trying to wake up in the morning. And we left it at that. So that piece kind of shows like the little identities, conflicts, and like not even aggressions, but questions that I have to answer just because of like who I am when I'm in a common teenage social setting. I felt like it's a good blend between how I operate in certain situations, how I operate in my daily social life, and how I respond to people who might not understand like why I am the way I am. So that's pretty much it.
No, thank you. And I think that your piece on each of your pieces really speaks to how young Muslims do navigate all the multiple social worlds that they coexist in. So thank you for putting those experiences on paper and allowing that to be a part of this book project.
Yeah, thank you.
Bilal. Iman, can we bring you into the conversation to hear your reflections and hear you read from the book?
Of course, thank you. My name's Iman. I'm 16 years old. I'm a sophomore at Walt Whitman High School. The last day of school was actually yesterday, so I guess I'm a rising junior now. I was born and raised in the DMV area, but I'm a first-generation Pakistani American. I was really attracted to this project because I love stories in general and books and movies. And, growing up in America, you see representations, you see movies and books and stories about different cultures and different families. But growing up and consuming all that media, I could never really see myself represented. I could never see people who looked like me, people who had the same experiences as me, people whose families looked like mine. And so when I found out about I'm Night Sky, it was mind-blowing because I was like, wow, now I finally have the opportunity to show who I really am and show my story. And so I'm really grateful that this opportunity arose itself. And my piece actually speaks about, it's semi-autobiographical. It's about a Muslim American teenager who's kind of navigating her the different kind of aspects of her identity. She's Pakistani and she's very, she's part of a tight-knit family and she's very intertwined with her culture, but at the same time, she's an American teenager and she's experiencing all the same ups and downs that all American teenagers go through, conflicts with friends and, schoolwork and stress. And so I just wanted to kind of show that being Muslim and being American aren't mutually exclusive. And so that's kind of what I hope people get out of my piece. So I'll be starting on page 19, step 8. Number 8, listen to your best friend rant about picture-perfect girls. I run down to the basement and find Rabia sitting on the couch, browsing through her phone. She's kind of been avoiding me these past 2 weeks, and though part of me thinks it's because she's just stressed by all the changes, like I am, another part of me thinks, well, no, I still think we'll be okay. Hey, I say. She doesn't look up. How can Emily Perkins get her eyes to pop and her hair to be that silky, she says. And these other girls, they look like 14-year-old Rachel McAdams or something. I'm confused. If Rabia wants to be a Rachel, what's with the goth? But I sense it's better just to go with it. Those girls post those just to get attention, I tell her. They look perfect, and I look like this, she replies. At that moment, I wonder whether Rabia's goth experiment hasn't been going so well. I did hear one kid say something about that Indian emo in the hallway the other day. Well, you're just gonna look like you, Rabia, and there's nothing wrong with that. Rabia rolls her eyes. Come on, Hafsa. What? I'm just trying to help. I mean, why do you suddenly feel so bad about yourself? Whatever, I'm fine, Rabia says, and I'm not taking advice from you. That one stings, but she acts like it's nothing. Anyways, want to get in line for food? At Pakistani dinner parties, there's a line of dishes on the table and everyone has to literally get in line for food. Sure, I say, although I still feel hurt and confused. Number 9, grab yourself a Southeast Asian feast. Chow down, get dissed. There's an array of foods on the table, including chicken korma, a rich curry with chicken, dum keema, beef mincemeat, and the ultimate party favorite, biryani, spicy rice. Rabia and I grab our dinner and then head downstairs again. So, how are the rest of your classes? I ask. Since we only have history in common, I want to hear about her other teachers and stuff. I love new school years. Fine, I guess. That's all she says. Suddenly, another girl we know descends the stairs, and Rabia quickly gets up. Lena, hi, she says to the girl. How have you been? What's been going on? She asks the girl, as if she's known her since birth, even though that's me. Lena sits down next to me, but focuses all her attention on Rabia. Have you signed up for any clubs yet? Lena asks. My parents forced me to try soccer last year, but I hated it. Now I'm doing acting. Yeah, my parents made me join squash, but it's a drag, so I'm gonna quit, Rabia says. But I thought you loved squash, I interrupt. You're dropping out? We've been playing together since the beginning of middle school. Well, yeah, I'm a new person now, Hafsa. I like new things. Rabia makes this duh face at Lena, and they both laugh. Wah, I begin, but I don't finish. Lena just starts talking again like I don't even exist. I remain silent for the rest of the dinner. I don't understand why my best friend of so many years can just suddenly become a different person. Now she doesn't even like the things we both used to love. What happened? She used to share everything with me, and she lived by her own rules, not anybody else's. She wasn't self-conscious all the time. The old Rabia watched Bollywood movies with me and laughed about particularly cheesy parts. She'd get her henna done with me on Eid. She was herself. Where did she go? When Mama calls me from upstairs telling me it's time to go home, I've never been so relieved to leave a party. So as you can see, the main character is quite petty in many ways, and she has these conflicts in her life with her friends and her classmates that are very common, I think, for all sorts of teenagers. And she's also kind of uh, having to balance that with everything else going on in her life and her Muslim Pakistani identity. So I just kind of wanted to showcase that as much as in common media, Muslims are portrayed as being these other beings that don't have the same feelings or desires as other people. We really are, and we have the same goals, the same wants as everyone else. So that's what I kind of wanted to focus on in my story. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Iman. I think that you're absolutely right. You capture the essence of teenage friendships and school life through your stories. And I think your dialogue allows people to smile and make connections with an experience that's so very familiar. So thank you. Thank you for that. Fatima, can we bring you and your amazing art skills into this conversation?
I'll be glad to speak next. Okay. Hi, my name is Fatima Rafi. I'm 17 years old currently, and I live in Virginia. Both my parents are also from Iran. So this year I recently graduated from Oakton High School, and next year I'm going to be a freshman at GMU, and I'm going to be majoring in chem. As far as me joining the I Am the Night Sky book project, I really wanted to join something that, you know, would put out some kind of representation about Muslim American youth. Just like how Iman said earlier, there's really no one that looks like us in media. But I feel like it's not just about representation either. It's also about normalizing the fact that Muslims are in the United States, because you know, when you see so much of one thing in the media, you kind of take that to be the standard or the baseline as normal. But if we start including more diversity into the media and more things like books about Muslims or TV shows that are positive, I think it's going to start normalizing the fact that there are Muslims, we live in America, we live all across the whole world, and that, you know, we're here, we have a voice, and this is what we have to say. Okay, so this is the first half of one of my artworks that I did. And I really wanted to kind of highlight in this image people who are not visibly Muslim. I feel like when it comes to talking about Muslims, especially Muslim youth, we tend to focus on visibly Muslim people, which I'm referring to the hijab in this case. And the thing is, there's quite a lot of discrimination and I guess just, like Bilal said, there's like a lot of microaggressions that people who aren't visibly Muslim still have to deal with. And I feel like that's not really highlighted enough, especially in the case of men or our sisters who do not wear hijab. These issues are still prevalent. So with this piece, I decided to kind of put a bunch of these stereotypes about Muslim men. There's like the whole thing where they're very oppressive. We've heard stories of Muslim men, I guess, like beating their wives or being very aggressive people who do not believe in human rights and a lot of things like that. And I decided to kind of put these all behind Bilal, who's our only male author on this team. And I crossed them out because a lot of them are really just not true at all. And also a lot of the things that are said in here, especially on the right side, if you look close to his head, these are things that people kind of think that Muslim men think, which honestly is not the case. These things could exist in the Muslim world, but it's something that is separate from the religion, and it's not something that should be associated with it. Additionally, I also wrote "Lower Your Gaze" across Bilal's eyes, and that is to kind of exemplify how, men in Islam are meant to be respectful. A lot of the rules we have towards that regard men don't really have to do with what's in the background rather than what's in the foreground of this, which is lower your gaze, which is kind of like a rule that's meant to, I guess, respect women and respect just everyone in general. By lowering your gaze, you're not objectifying someone, you're not, I guess, sexualizing them, you're putting them as your equal, and you're not going to just look at them for their body. You would rather look at them based off of their other qualities, like their intelligence, their education, how funny they are, their personality. So I just really wanted to highlight this in this piece. Yeah, if we could go to the next page. Yeah. And on the other side, we have a bunch of pictures of women. These are just a bunch of images that I decided that, they were portrayals of women in magazines, and kind of how, I guess, the Western world tends to objectify the female body, and how people like tend to not really realize that that's also an issue. So I juxtapose this with the other side, which is all the stereotypes about Muslim men that I think we need to examine, how Western society also treats women. So it's not just a one-way street. And this is my second piece. So I thought this piece was very, I guess, relevant to what's currently going on in the US. I wasn't going to initially talk about this, but I thought it was probably something important to bring up, especially within the Muslim community, as opposed to outside of it. I think that when it comes to race and ethnicity and, diversity within the Muslim community, we tend to think that, all Muslims are Arab or they're all from the Middle East. But that's definitely not the case. I think it's a very big misconception that Islam is a race, or it's a culture, or it's like an ethnicity or nationality, which it really isn't. It's a religion. So it's just a set of rules it's just a way of life. But I think we really need to, I guess, separate the notion that Islam is a religion from Islam is like a culture. And definitely when it comes to diversity within the Muslim community, I think a lot of Muslims still have this mindset that Islam is a culture or a religion, or belongs to a certain set of people. We really see like Middle Eastern, I guess, culture and beliefs being implemented into Islam and kind of being forced on other people, which I think is very sad. Islam is a religion that teaches like acceptance, and it praises diversity, but I think it's really something that we need to introspectively look at within our Muslim communities. Like, you know, are we really being open, or are we just sticking to our own culture and not really accepting that Muslims come from all over the world? We have Muslims in China, we have Muslims in the US, we have Muslims in the Middle East, we have some in Russia even, we have some in Africa, we have some everywhere. Australia, where name a country, there's probably a group of Muslims there. So I think that we really need to, both as Muslims and people who are not Muslim, to kind of accept that there's a lot of diversity in this world, and we need to stop thinking that our culture and the way we live life is the center of everything. There's a lot of different ways that people can live. And yeah, that's what I really wanted to exemplify with this piece. Yeah, and I wrote the quote, "The beauty of the world lies in the diversity of its people," just to, I guess, drive that point home.
Thank you, Fatima. Your art is very powerful, and I appreciate you taking the time to explain what you wanted to convey in your images and your messages. So thank you for that. If I could then first, on behalf of everyone on the CICW team, just thank you all for your contributions to this project, for putting this work in front of not just our Muslim community, but communities around the nation and to the extent around the world. I think that what you have done is remarkable, and it helps add a very important set of voices to an emerging discourse of Muslim American experiences. And I just thank you for making sure that your voices stand strong and proud in this community and in this literary space. Imam Omair, do you want to make a couple of comments before we ask him one of our questions?
Yes, absolutely. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing. And wow, there were some really powerful messages that you guys sent. I mean, some of those lines are like, Sasa, your stuff is stuck in my head, man. Hearts doing their best to mimic drums, and wings are invisible to those who are ungrateful. That's locked now. SubhanAllah. Those really powerful pieces. Layla, you speaking about the lunchroom. I remember being in the lunchroom and getting asked the exact same questions. And I love the way that you made it, you know, your choice. It's not like someone's forcing you to do this. This is your own observance. And I think that really speaks to the power of the Muslim narrative and how, you know, we can claim that for ourselves. Bilal, man, I identified so much with Bilal. It was insane. Bilal, you were like telling my story. I'm going to share something I've never shared before. I grew up in the Midwest, in Wisconsin, of all places. All of my friends were Polish, German, Irish. They were basically all white. I was the token brown kid. We didn't listen to rap. We listened to rock and like metal. So I was a metalhead. And I remember being at a concert. The band was called Damage Plan. There's a very heavy metal concert. And I remember being there, and the exact same thing that happened to you, Bilal. Someone asked, "Hey bro, why aren't you getting drunk?" And I remember someone, like an older guy, literally giving me like a cup of beer in my hand. And I remember sitting there like, I think that was the first time I consciously made the decision, like, wow, I have something in my hand right now that, you know, it's like a make or break, like a watershed moment for me. If I drink this, you know, what does that say about myself, my identity, and what I hold to be true? You know, or like, what do I do in this situation? And I remember literally giving him the thing back and being like, no, I don't do that. You know, and the guy being shocked, like, what do you mean? Like, you're clearly underage. I think I was 16 at the time, and I'm giving you free beer. And why would you give it back to me? You know, it was like, for me, even looking back at that, it was like a weird moment for me, like being like, did I really just do that? Like, yeah, I really did do that. Like, it was the first conscious time I had to make that decision, subhanAllah. Iman, your story about, you know, changing, like identities changing over time was really powerful, because I've experienced that too with my own friends, you know, like friends you've literally grown up with, and then they become strangers overnight. You know, they like, you think like they're there for you, and then all of a sudden, like, they've got a new group, a new clique, and you're left alone and hurt and vulnerable and thinking, you know, where did that person go, and why have things changed so much? That was really powerful for me. And Fatima, your art, I loved your art, because to especially your first piece about, pushing it back towards the men, especially the lower your gaze thing was amazing. I remember once I was teaching a class from my home when I lived in the Middle East, and I was teaching specifically a class full of women. And my next class had already come, and there were men, and they were like kind of waiting on the side. And I remember them asking, "What do we do?" And I think one of the ladies, one of the people I was teaching, she said, "Why don't you sit in the corner and experience what Muslim women experience in your mosques?" So I told them, "Yeah, guys, sit in the corner and wait." And so that was really like, this is a great piece that you made, showing how, and there is a delicate balance obviously that we need to have, but there's a lot of misconceptions from one side, from what is projected onto us as Muslim men and Muslim women, a lot of things that people think we do and they don't realize we're just normal people. And one bad habit that one person has doesn't color an entire group, we're not an ethnic group, as you mentioned, we're a religious group, we're all backgrounds and all cultures and all races, and we're everywhere around the entire world. And it's our ethical standard that should keep us higher, and we need to be the people who enforce that upon ourselves first and foremost. So I really loved the artwork that you had. So I just wanted to, I was like itching to jump in there and be like, oh, I want to say this and I want to say this, but no, I'm glad we did it this way. And so I wanted to thank you all for sharing. And so, Sister Amaarah, should we go straight into a question, or we'd love to hear your comments too first, your reflection.
It's just very powerful. You all have just done an amazing job of putting your collective set of voices into this book. And I just hope that by doing this book talk, that our local community is going to give you enough platforms to project your voice in all different parts of our local Muslim community. And by hosting this today on YouTube Live, that we'll be able to introduce this book to audiences around the globe. I wish you all abundant success communicating this message over time. I wanted to ask, really today is Tuesday, June 16th, 2020. And we're in what appears to be the middle of a global pandemic as we are still managing stay-at-home orders due to COVID-19. But at the same time, our nation is grieving the killing of George Floyd and countless other African-American men, women, and children that have lost their lives at the hands of law enforcement. And our nation is having a reckoning in dealing with issues of racial injustice. I'm wondering, for you young people, what have you been doing since March 6th? What have you been doing in these last 2 weeks? And how are you processing this moment?
So I guess I'll start. Since March 6th, there's been a lot of getting used to like a new kind of world. Everybody's constantly on edge now about every sort of little thing, like whether it be the pandemic or the systematic racism that people are finally waking up to, all sorts of things in like the global community that people are on edge about. So it's been a lot of like sitting at home, not really being able to go out and do things until quite recently, just watching while people learn and figure out all sorts of stuff. So for me, it's been a lot of like trying to stay active on social media, using my platform to send out a lot of content and information to people who might not have seen it otherwise, as well as in the last couple of weeks, organize and speak at a few protests just to like keep people from letting it go to rest, because this issue is not new. It's been around for so long and it's affected so many people for a long time. And I feel like if we let it go to rest now, it's never going to be able to come back and like actually like we're never going to be actually able to get some change on it. So I feel like right now is one of the most divisive times in like this nation's history, and it's like it's about damn time that we actually do something about it. So like we can't just like be quiet, we can't stop fighting. It's like we're not done yet. So I feel like it's just important for everyone to keep using their voice like we are right now.
For me, the past 2 weeks have been very, or 3 weeks going on, has been very like emotionally distressing and also uplifting, but also distressing again. It's been a lot to process, especially when Ahmaud Arbery died, before the protest started. It was one of the deaths that like really impacted my family. Like we didn't know him, but usually as like Black Americans, we had become numb to this kind of constant killing of our people. But when he died, it was very like very painful. Like it hit close to home. And then after with George Floyd, it was like this big. My whole family kind of had this. I don't know, this moment, like I think it's because we're in a quarantine, and so we felt as if it would kind of be better, but then we realized that it really, really wasn't, and Blackness was still the worst death sentence you can ever receive in this country. And we felt that, and it hurt really, really badly for me and the people who lived here in my house. And so I turned to what I always turn to, art, because I was in a lot of pain and I didn't really know what to do. So actually, hold on, it's right here. So I printed this card, and it says a man was lynched yesterday. And I just did it because I carved it out of a printing block and I put it on paper, and I just stated something that I knew to be true and something that has been a saying for a really long time and still clearly hasn't had enough of an impact. And then my aunt was like, you should make these into postcards and have people send them out. To their representatives and to police departments and to everyone, and tell them that we need to make change. So that's actually what I did. So I started this project. It's just called The Man Was Lynched Yesterday. And I send these to people, and they order them, and then I send them and they mail them to whoever they want to. And so what I've been doing with my time is just printing these and printing these and printing these and printing these and printing more. And it's been like the uplifting part has been the reception I've received, like doing this project and seeing how people want to make change and have been making change and want to support me in making my own change. But it's also been really, really sad because, you know, you go out in the streets and my mom won't even let me protest without her being there because she doesn't know what will happen. And just the fear that even though we're making all this change, the fear that we're still facing, I don't know. I'm talking a lot, but it's been pretty wild. I'm very grateful for what I've been able to do, but I still feel like I haven't done enough. And I think that's kind of just a general state to be existing in. But I also kind of have hope for maybe one day, you know, the world will change. But yeah, that's me.
Same with pretty much Bilal and Sasa. I've been trying to, I guess, process this, and while it doesn't directly affect me and my family, it's really upsetting and to hear about the constant. It's just been constant. Nothing has changed since, like barely anything has changed. It's honestly disgusting. But anyways, I've been attending a couple of protests, and they were both like mainly educational protests that were run and organized by high schoolers. I actually heard Bilal speak at one of them, and he did a really good job. But anyways, it's I guess I kind of tend to look for the positive things in a lot of these situations. While there may be few, there are definitely some. And I think one thing is how I would say our generation has really come together and kind of I would say, have been one of the leading, probably part of very much, we've been pretty much the leader of a lot of this. And so I think that that's really amazing to see. And it gives me hope for the future when eventually we're old enough to be in office and try to actually run this country and make it a good place to live. So yeah.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Bilal and Layla and Sasa were all saying about how this is, I mean, obviously, of course, all these repeated incidents are just heartbreaking and, just to be honest, frustrating. The fact that this just keeps on happening, and this racism has been institutionalized in our country since its inception, and it's unbearable to constantly hear about because it's so it's again so frustrating. And so, but what I'm really hoping is that now people are actually coming out. People are really, really heavily campaigning for this cause and using their voices to affect change. And I'm really, really hoping that like we need to keep this momentum up. And I'm really hoping that eventually it will have an impact, and we can actually tackle this problem head on. Because I mean, the only way to do it is really to, and just like Mahatma Gandhi says, be the change you wish to see in the world. So I'm really hoping that's what's gonna eventually end up happening. But yeah.
Yeah, I guess since everyone's taking their go at it, I'll speak a bit as well. Unfortunately, I've been really wanting to go to a protest, but my dad is unfortunately high risk, so we weren't able to do that. But in place of that, I've been really, I guess, trying to check my own biases and kind of find biases within my local community. I feel like as Muslims, we tend to think that we're absolved of any sort of guilt towards this race issue, because there are historically there have been Black people who have been involved in our religion, and also our religion is something that teaches us peace and acceptance. But I feel like on paper that's definitely the case, but when we take it to the real, like, to reality, we do have a lot of internal biases, and I feel like it's really important to look at that. I think it's definitely not enough to be like, oh, I'm Muslim, my religion teaches me this, so obviously I think this way. I know that I've seen a lot of things within my own community that have not been okay towards people of all races and all ethnicities. And I think it's really important right now, especially since we're in quarantine, we have so much time to reflect on this. We have a lot of time to check ourselves and make sure that, we are following these guidelines, not just for our religion, but just morally and ethically, like it's what's right. And we need to really look inside and make sure that we are being accepting instead of just giving ourselves a pass for being Muslim.
Imam Omair, would you like to ask a final question?
Yes, of course. So we prepared a number of questions that we wanted to ask you guys. I think I'm just going to. How much time do we have, Sister Amaarah? Just one?
Just
one
one.
question?
Yeah. So
Oh,
please.
that makes it really tough.
I know it's hard. I would want hours with these young people.
Absolutely. I guess in the spirit of hopefully continuing this conversation later, I would like to ask your advice and what. So let me read the question that we prepared, and then we can hear from you guys. What advice would you give to a young Muslim like you growing up who wants to write creatively but does not know how to get started? And what gave you the courage initially to express yourselves through writing? So hopefully, we want to continue the process and have more writers like you. So please, if you could give a few thoughts on that question.
My first piece of advice is kind of twofold. So number one is just literally write. Write every day, write multiple times a day, write as much as you can. It doesn't have to be good, but you want to, get yourself in practice and get yourself comfortable with your own voice and find out what that means and what you like to write about and what things give you inspiration. But my second thing is don't push yourself to share it with other people. Don't rush. I started writing when I was 10 and no one heard what I wrote until I was 12. Which I just didn't feel ready to share a lot of my work, and so I didn't. And it's actually great because looking back, it was all terrible. So I had time to refine and learn myself and learn my voice. And then by the time I was ready to share, I had people around me who I knew would help and support. And so once I began sharing, actually, this is a funny story. I shared my first poem on Google+, which isn't even a thing anymore. But the response I got from the people around me was so positive that it prompted me to do more and do more. And so one thing that was very helpful for me was to share the writing first. and then move into sharing it verbally and reading it yourself. Yeah, but take it slow. You got it. You'll figure it out eventually.
I guess what advice I would give is like, well, another two things. Like first, I'd say read a lot. Like the more you read, the more you can see how like people do creative writing in the first place. You can see like what voices you resonate with, like different ideas for your own writing. I personally like, even if it's not something serious, I'm not reading like super creative things. You can just like, you can get inspiration and creative like techniques from pretty much any type of writing, whether it be poetry, prose, song lyrics, any type of form. And then I guess my second piece of advice would be just write, like for me at least, when I was writing, it was to write how I talk. Like if I'm writing in the first person, all of my pieces are basically just me thinking out loud in my own head, and how I talk, like how I speak about different things to anybody who might ask. So when I write, it's all my own voice, and it's all just like the way that I speak. So I feel like that's a very authentic way to get your point across, and something that you're not going to have to think too much about, and you can more just focus on what your point is. So
I think my advice, I know it's very generic, but I would kind of say you matter. And just like Sasa said, your writing doesn't have to be good necessarily, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't give up on writing altogether. Because if it is what you're passionate about, you should still be doing it, and your voice does matter. And I think that being able to work for Shout Mouse Press was really amazing for me, because I think our editors were so phenomenal, and they also were able to, like, they personally, I feel like they encouraged me to be genuine. And even though I thought that something I say didn't hold any value or that it wasn't good enough, they were kind of encouraging me to just basically showcase who I really am. So I think that's what my advice would be, is you should still take a shot at it. Be just like Sasa said, don't be afraid to, you don't have to necessarily share your work with everyone, but don't be afraid to, let your real voice shine, because you do have something to offer. I would say don't be afraid to take that risk.
I would also say that there is no right or wrong way to write, and there are no right or wrong stories. All stories and experiences are valid, and so I think that for me, honesty and transparency was kind of difficult for me, but I realized that what I wanted to portray in my story and the message that I wanted my reader to get was through my own honesty and my transparency in my writing. So I think it was difficult because I didn't want to be the speaker for all young Muslim American, even girls. Like I didn't want to be that forefront. But I realized it doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want, really.
And Sister Fatima, just to adapt that to the visual arts and creating, whether it's compositions or paintings, or what advice would you give to someone who wants to get more involved in visual arts?
Definitely when it comes to visual art, I feel like there's this constant pressure to be like artsy, put like huge, like deep meanings behind everything, like those really abstract paintings you see at museums that have like this huge meaning behind them. But honestly, a lot of my art that I do, I don't think about it. I just do it. Like I don't plan it. I don't put a ton of effort into it most of the time. And I think honestly, it's a lot less pressure that way. I feel like when it comes to art, it really shouldn't be something that's stressful. For the longest time, I had this mindset that, what I did had to have some kind of message like hidden underneath it. But honestly, when you just sit down and just paint or draw or however you like to do art, just anything that just comes to mind, you just kind of do it on the page. I feel like even if you just do that, there's a lot of things that kind of come up from the surface. Like I go back and look at my old art and I'm like, wow, this is like what I was thinking at the time I was doing this. This is what I felt. And I know those things because I created that. And I feel like it doesn't have to be this big, like artsy, like masterpiece. You can honestly just start by just drawing what you think is fun and what you enjoy doing. I know definitely for some of the pieces that ended up in the book, I just did them. Like I didn't really plan them out. I think the first one I did was the one with my face, I think. And there was like a brain and there's an eye. I don't know if we could pull it up, but that one, yeah, there it is. That one we did on, I think that was the first day that we were doing the collages, and it was just kind of meant to be a test run, and I wasn't really thinking when I was doing it. I was just trying to see if, like, you know, how the format would work out, how I would go about, you know, doing the collage with the photographs and like how the layout would be. But I noticed, like, after I had finished it, I did like charge my art with a lot of hidden meanings without really realizing it. So yeah, I think definitely don't pressure yourself to, you know, create something that's super like metaphorical. I feel like that stuff just comes on its own. Like you shouldn't stress yourself out over that.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for the advice. And please, Dr. Amaarah, if you'd like to close this up.
Yeah, thank you all again from the bottom of our hearts for doing this work and joining us in this book talk this afternoon. I wanted to share an announcement that in addition to coordinating this work with CICW, I'm also a researcher at American University, and I am in the middle of conducting a study of Muslim students sharing their stories about going to public school here in the DMV area, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And so if anybody would like to reach out to me afterwards to talk about how to be a part of my study, I would love to include more Muslim voices in my work. But on behalf of the Center for Islam in the Contemporary World at Shenandoah University and Adams Center, our local masjid community, I would just like to thank all of you for joining us in this book talk. Alexa, I'd like it if you can let people know how they can find out more information about your organization, support your organization, and where can people get their own copy of I Am the Night Sky?
Yes, you can get your own copy of I Am the Night Sky on our website, shoutmousepress.org. You can also find it on Amazon. And then you can also just find out more about our organization, browse through our catalog on our website as well. You can keep in touch with us and see you know, how we are responding to this moment by following us on social media. So Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can find us there at Shout Mouse Press. If you have young people, or if you are a young person who is interested in responding to the weekly prompts that we're putting out with our Shout in Place initiative, please follow us or email me even. You can find me at alexa@shoutmousepress.org, and you can contact me there with any questions. But thank you for your work, you brilliant authors. I'm always in awe of you, not only what you put in the book, but how you back it up, how you reach people. And I mean, your tender, beautiful hearts. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.